Yeah, so I've been a part of Hackerspaces since I started Noisebridge with a bunch of really cool people back in 2007. And I've been going to lots and hundreds of Hackerspaces around the world for ever since then, and giving talks and workshops all over. Right now, I'm in Kerala for Hack for Play, which is part of the Kochi Biennale. And I gave this talk a few days ago and was asked if I could present it here. And I thought that would be a great way to get to visit your community and see this place is amazing. The energy here is just so wonderful. There's so many people doing all these amazing things, and it just feels really good to be here. And yeah, there are a lot of hackerspaces around the world, and if you have a chance to visit other ones around this area or all of India or anywhere else in the world, the energy is unique in each one, but the same kind of warm, friendly, inviting energy is at all of them. So I encourage everyone to explore and find others and share what you know with them, and they'll share what they know with you. That's what makes this whole thing work. But yeah, so this presentation was really created for people who don't really know what hackerspaces are. But maybe it'll be some good information for you, and maybe hopefully some good inspiration to share. And then afterwards, I can talk about more specific things that might be helpful for you as individuals here, and also as a group and organization, if there's things I can share. Because I've learned a lot about various communities, but in particular hackerspace communities around the world, that I'm happy to share what works for them and what doesn't work so well for them. But anyways, here, this is my contact information. And if you like, I can upload these slides somewhere so you can download them as well. Everything I do is open source. The only thing I don't share is my passwords. No matter how shameful or whatever in my life, there's pretty much nothing in my life I haven't shared publicly by now, except my passwords. So anyways, this is my contact info. Please feel free to contact me anytime for any reason. And I really mean that. I love helping people any way that I can. If I can help, I will. With projects, with, if you're having a bad day, whatever, it's totally okay. So, yeah, so just thanks for taking the time to hear what I have to offer, and I really do hope it can be of some inspiration. And I want to share some pretty personal things in the beginning of this talk, so what I'll say later makes more sense. I am a geek, and I've always been a geek. As a little kid, I used to take things apart. And maybe some of you, if not most of you here, can relate to this. And then eventually learning to put some things back together again. And sometimes they even worked. And my parents did not kill me, so I'm still alive, so I can share all this. But I became really good at making things with electronics in particular, good enough so that I could help small companies with their projects, and as a consultant, and get paid for doing that. And I like working with small companies much more with big companies, so that's what I did for 15 years of my adult life. And I've done a lot of really cool consulting work, mostly in Silicon Valley in California. One of the things that I did was with a group of people. There were only like maybe 12 or 15 of us, and we created virtual reality in the mid-1980s. And we even coined the term virtual reality, VR, which is known as it's known today. And I saw some people playing with it here. That's because of the work we did, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, does anyone know what the Mattel or the Power Glove is? No, that's too old. It was weird. This is an early game controller where you can control things just by moving your hand around. Yeah, anyways, I made that. And then I worked for lots of different little companies, and I saw all of the bosses making all sorts of incredibly stupid mistakes, which drove almost all of those companies out of business. And I thought by the late 1990s, after helping all of these small companies and seeing all the stupid mistakes they made, I thought, well, gee, I'm really good at making stupid mistakes, so I can start my own company, which I did. And it was called Threeware. And I did make lots of stupid mistakes, but somehow we didn't go out of business, and we were successful. And I made it money to do the first TV Begons, which I'll explain in a little bit. It was, well, I guess I'll explain it now. So TV Begone is this keychain that turns off televisions in public places. That's my invention that got me internet famous all over the world. And I hate TV, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But me and several friends have made a living on this ever since I created this in 2003. And should I explain that now? No, I'll explain that later. But this got me internet famous. It became super popular from the first day of sales. And I'll explain more about that in a little bit. But it got me invited to give talks all over the world. I was on, oddly enough, I was on every TV station on the planet, interviewed live, because I created a remote control that turns TVs off. Life can be very strange. But because of that, I got invited to give lots and lots of talks and lots of workshops all over the world. I love teaching, so I thought, well, gee, I can help people learn electronics, learn to solder by creating kits that anyone, including complete beginners who've never made anything before, can have fun making and have something that they think is fun and useful afterwards. So these are just a few of my kits. I've given talks, small and large. Is it okay if I take a picture? If anyone minds, please turn around. But say hi, Mom. Hey! Okay, thanks. Now you'll be on the internet forever. All of my stuff, as I showed in the first slide, is on my Flickr page, and online I'm pretty much always maltman23. So same with Flickr. So talks small and large. This one was really interesting. It was 2,000 people from the Ministry of Education in China. I was helping people with education in China, and that was an outgrowth of Hackerspaces, and I'll get to a slide about that in a while too. I co-founded NoiseBridge, as I said, in 2017. It started off pretty small, but it became super popular and big. It's very, very much like here. There's like 350 people that go through NoiseBridge every week, unique individuals. It's super wonderful energy, very much like here. So anyways, those are just a few of the accomplishments in my life for which I'm really grateful for, to be able to have experienced all of that so that I can share that with other people. And as much as the last half of my life, how wonderful it's been, I didn't start off feeling like life was wonderful. I actually started off life being totally depressed blob of a kid. My life was total hell because I was targeted by bullies every day in school, beaten up by these bullies for being an introverted geek, for being fat, for being gay, for being bad at sports and not even caring who wins at sports. Whatever bullies beat up little kids for, they did that to me every day. Often, as the gym teacher, just stood there and watched, and thus encouraging the bullies to do this more. So clearly, teachers were no help, and my parents were no help either, because I know later in life that they were just as depressed as I was for their own experiences in their life, and they couldn't even deal with their pain, let alone mine. So my life as a kid was total hell. And to try to escape that hell, when I got home, I tried to escape into the magical world of television. Kids on TV, unlike me, were beautiful, had understanding friends, loving parents, problems that resolved by the end of every half-hour show. Comparing myself to those kids on TV, I just got more depressed. I would sit there trying to forget things, almost able to forget things while the show was going on, but then the show would end. But then there'd be another show, and it would end. And then there'd be another show, and it would end. And time just goes away, show by show, day by day, but year by year. And I just sat there in front of this screen, eating junk food like the advertisements were encouraging me to do, getting fatter, not learning about other kids, not learning about humans, not learning anything about life, only to become more of a target at school for the bullies, only wanting to escape more into TV when I got home. TV was my first addiction, and I had more afterwards, but this isn't to talk about that. But TV took away my childhood by my own choices. Those choices weren't good for me, but it was TV's addictive nature, which was put there by design, that did that. But I did eventually learn to live a life I love living. And that's a long story in and of itself, and that's a different talk. But if anyone's interested, I'm very happy to share. Or if any of you are going through anything at all related, I'm happy to talk with you one-on-one or in groups. But one of the first things I did the first thing that I did that started me on the road to being able to learn to live my life and live with my depression was to quit television, my first addiction, and that was in 1980. I've been around for a long time. 1980, that was the last time I watched TV, and it's the last time I had a TV. I got rid of it from my apartment, and then I suddenly had lots of time and energy to start exploring things that might be actually enjoyable in my life rather than wasting my time in front of a screen until 1993, which I'll get to in a little bit. But one of the things that I did was put more and more time into cool, geeky projects, which I actually loved doing and didn't even know it because I was so depressed. So I got really, really good at it and started getting good enough to help small companies with their projects and make a living on this, often making enough money in 3 months to live the rest of the year without having to even think about money, which is pretty cool as a consultant. And I did this for like maybe 15 years, like I said. And after a while, though, even after starting my own company, I just became a mere employee because the investors took over and made the company a terrible place to work for, not only for me, but for everybody. So I quit. I have a very low threshold of pain when it comes to work. And I encourage all of you to go with those feelings of low threshold of pain at your work too, because your life is way more valuable than just making money so that other people can make way more money to profit off of your work and wasting your life. But that's a different talk too. So in 2004, I decided I'm just going to do my own thing. I somehow figured that there must be a way of working on projects that I love, that are personally meaningful to me, that somehow make me enough money to keep doing these projects that I love doing. I didn't know what that would be, but it turned out to be TV Be Gone. I didn't make TV Be Gone because it was going to make me money, because who would make a business and a business plan out of a remote control that turns TVs off in public places? That's insane. But that's what I did. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I just made one. Oops. I just made one for me because I fucking hate TV. And my friends were all excited about it as I was making it. And Many friends started helping me, which allowed me to do it in a faster amount of time. And I figured I would make TV Begons for them since they were into it. But they would show their friends, and their friends were interested in it. And many of the friends' friends also said that they were interested in it. And one of the things that I learned through all those years of consulting was how to manufacture products. Not my own thing, but I thought, geez, this might be an opportunity. And because Threeware, that company I started, was successful, I had enough money to buy to manufacture 20,000 TV Begons. And so that's what I did. And I thought, of course, I did the math first, and I calculated that if I made 5,000, sold 5,000 of them, that I would break even. And there might be other ways of making money. If I broke even after 5 years or whatever, that might be really cool. There'd be 5,000 people going all over the world turning TVs off, which always makes me happy when TVs go off. So I did that. And it turns out I was totally wrong. I did not sell 5,000 in 5 years. I definitely didn't sell 20,000 in 5 years. I sold 20,000 in 3 weeks because there was a Wired.com article. Thank you. Totally surprised me. And then the first day of sales, I got a call from National Public Radio in the US asking me all these questions. I had no idea what was going on because I was up all night trying to get my website together for the few weirdos who might want to buy this thing. But it turns out it was so popular that the website crashed by noon. But National Public Radio asked me all these questions. I had no idea what I said because I was so tired after being up all night. But whatever it was, all the media in the world was calling me: BBC, Deutsche Welle, Radio France, on and on and on, New York Times. I think I have a slide for that. Anyways, I mostly bring up these glimpses of my past to show that uncool kids can make use of all the things that we believe are awful about ourselves to great advantage later in life, like now. All these things I thought were totally wrong about me added together to make me not only successful at living a life I love, but making enough money with a project I love so that I can keep doing projects I love and travel all over the world and meeting cool people like all of you. And I'm not unique that way. I'm only unique at this particular moment because I'm in front of you with a microphone, but you could be the person doing that tomorrow or the next day. What would your life be like if you had a project that you loved because you took the time to explore in this wonderful community that supports that kind of exploration? You found a project that you think is meaningful for you that other people think are meaningful. And when other people think the project that you do is meaningful, that's the kind of project that people are willing to pay you to provide them. That's something to consider. You don't have to work some stupid job just to make some not nice person exploiting you for their profit. Anyways, but mostly this talk is about community. Community is really important. That's what makes all of us feel our life is worth living. We all need community, even introverted geeks, even uncool kids like us. We all need to feel part of something bigger than ourselves in order to feel good about ourselves. We are social creatures. We evolved to be social creatures to support one another, to survive in a sometimes hostile environment. Unfortunately, though, there isn't a whole lot of community in our modern world. We're also busy working and spinning our wheels or staring at screens, and so many ways of distracting ourselves from actually living our lives by ourselves, let alone with other people. We here are all fortunate enough to have this community that's really supportive and doing something that we do feel is worthwhile, or at least exploring that. But because there's so little community in our modern world, we search for it anywhere we can. Some of us are lucky enough to have families that we were born into or adopted that give us what we need to feel like our lives are way worthwhile, all of our needs met. Most of us probably aren't that lucky. I definitely wasn't. Places of worship should be places that give us this kind of support, but that doesn't work for a whole lot of us either. Schools definitely should be places where we have fantastic community, places where we're supported and learning continually throughout our lives, but instead we have these rows and columns of desks and taking tests and competing. Work. Some of us might be lucky enough to have a place of work where we at least get some community. It would be great if there were places where we got a lot of community and support for doing all the cool things that we're doing at work, but most of us are just merely struggling to make enough money to survive with our work. Technology promises so much technology, not just TV and what follows, but all technology promises to bring us together. But instead, even if we're with people like here, we're feeling alone staring at a screen. And that was TV a long time ago. Now we have these little screens in our pockets for if we can afford it, and that's almost every one of the 8 billion people on our planets. And look, these people are staring at their little screens. These people are supposedly friends, right? Is this bringing them together? It's tearing them apart. These little screens are so much worse than those big screens, and we all have them. And I don't have a TV be gone for them. That's up to each of us to decide for ourselves. We all need community. We can do a lot on our own, but we can do so much more in community. And we did evolve for it, like I said. At the beginning of humanity, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we did not have brawn like a Godzilla or tigers. We have big brains and have had big brains for hundreds of thousands of years. And with these big brains, as social creatures, we evolved to come together to support each other, not just to survive, but to make our lives better continually. And we did. And because we did, and because we survived, this need for community survived with us. And for way more than 50,000 years, we have this as part of our DNA. It's built into us. We need community. And even if we don't need community now merely to survive, we still need community to feel our lives are worth living and to thrive in our lives. And I would say we actually do need community in order to solve the incredibly difficult problems facing all of humanity, as well as to solve the problems in our lives, big and small. And fortunately, we as geeks have figured out some forms of community that really work. Starting off with hacker conferences, here's one in Brazil with a couple thousand people seeming to be kind of happy. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was invited to the Maker Mela in Mumbai. That was some pretty good community too. These kind of hacker conferences have been going on for about 45 years. And they are big ones, little ones, all over the world. They're really wonderful communities of people. And my first hacker conference was in 2006, HOPE, Hackers on Planet Earth. And it was their 6th one. And this changed my life. It was the first time in my life where there was a group of people, and these were 2,300 people, who were supporting each other, and I could just be my own introverted, geeky self and not have to be like worried about what people are going to think about me or all this stuff. But people teaching and sharing and learning all these talks There weren't many workshops at this one, oddly enough. They didn't really have workshops back then. People weren't making things. But still, it was a fantastic experience. And when it ended, I knew I wanted to go to the next one, because I missed it horribly until the next one. And the next one, for me, I was invited to Berlin, Germany, where I now live. This was their 23rd conference. And there were not only talks and a few workshops, but they had a rocket ship. Didn't fly, but it was still really cool. And I met friends there that I'm still friends with today, and that's why I now live in Berlin, Germany. And after that ended, I wanted to go again to another conference, and my third one was this camp that happens every 4 years outside of Berlin. They not only had talks and workshops because I gave them, but of course the rocket ship again, and lasers, which weren't so common back then, and a disco ball in the trees, and great music and food and all this stuff. But one talk in particular was about how to start your own hackerspace. If there was a hackerspace in your hometown, like here, then you don't have to wait till the next hacker conference. You could come to the hackerspace and get these same kind of things in all day, all night in your hometown. And that was super exciting to me and a few friends from North America. So we all helped each other with the help of the people who put on those conferences in Berlin, Germany, helping us form 3 of the first hackerspaces in the US. I helped start Noisebridge in San Francisco. Some other friends started Hack DC in Washington, DC, and other friends started NYC Resistor in New York City. And we became examples which helped more hackerspaces start, more of these wonderful communities start all over the world. And we started an organization, a website really, called hackerspaces.org in 2008. And now, because of all of that, and Hackerspaces is still helping each other, each hackerspace unique, all helping each other start and grow and solve problems. There's now thousands in the world. And this is a map from hackerspaces.org. So what is a hackerspace? Well, all of you have some kind of idea, but it's a physical space, like here, where people come together in supportive community, encouraging everyone to explore and find projects that are really cool. Whether it's creating a 3D model of the space and sharing that with other people, or whether it's just making a blinky light or learning Python, whatever it is, exploring and finding things that are really cool to do according to each person. And it's a physical space. It is way, way, way cooler than anything on the internet. And the internet's pretty cool, but it's way cooler than that. And most importantly, it has the supportive community. It's really about the community. All the things we do here, as far as I'm concerned, is really an excuse for people to come together to support each other so we can all feel really good about that. But, you know, we do make cool things, and it's a great excuse to bring people together. It's a great excuse. And when people are together in a hackerspace, we probably want to make some things. And so the community gets together, and with the resources available, gets tools for making cool things, whatever those tools are. All sorts of tools. But as cool as the tools are, it's about the community. The supportive community for people to explore and do cool things. And we do cool things. Not just tech and computers, which many people think about, but also art and craft and fabricating physical things and making music, food, science, biology, whatever people in the community, the people who started, who run it, do and love. We make cool things and we form supportive community. And not just some people, but all people, old people, young people. Whatever we do there gives us a sense of accomplishment and confidence to bring out into our lives, to do all the cool things we're going to do. And I saw the word hackerspace on the door here. A lot of people think that the word hacker is kind of scary, because in the US, the mainstream media use the word hacker to describe people who break into computers and do nasty things. That's one definition of hacker. But the original definition is all that stuff I was talking about. And I'll give my definition in a little bit. But whatever you want to call it, whether it's Hackerspace, Makerspace, Fab Lab, as long as there's a supportive community where people are encouraged to explore and find things that ideally each person finds things they really, really like doing. Doesn't matter what the name is. So, what is hacking? If you ask 1,000 hackers what hacking is, you'll get way more than 1,000 answers. But here's my definition. The world is full of resources. Many of those resources were put there to be resources for people to do cool things with. But many of the resources are natural. They weren't put there, they're just there. Some of those resources were put there, but for different purposes by different people, but that doesn't mean we can't use it for our own purposes. We don't have to use those resources as intended. Some of the stuff that's resources is garbage to other people, but garbage is a fantastic resource for doing all sorts of cool things with our projects. We can, as hackers, with the hacker mindset, make use of those resources for our projects to do whatever we want to make those projects way cool. We see what works, what doesn't work so well, and then we share that with other people so they can learn from it, and that's what hacking is all about. But most importantly, we do it because it's incredibly enjoyable. The hacker mindset is that. It's a mindset. It's a way of being, a way of living. We can continually make use of that to make our lives better and the lives of those around us better. And if you have that community, that mindset, that community in a physical space like here, now we have a hackerspace. And it can be way, way different in many ways all over the world, but there's still that same kind of wonderful, supportive community energy. And when people think of what can be hacked, they usually think of electronics and computers. But again, it's all those other things I mentioned too. In order to be a really good artist, you have to have a hacker mindset. Using anything as a resource to make your art or craft as wonderful as possible. Science also needs a hacker mindset to explore and find new ways of looking at the world and the universe. You yourselves, us, our community, all of these, we are lifelong living projects that can continually be improved. Same with our communities. The planet seriously needs improvement, and if we don't do that, who will? Everything can and should be hacked, including education, which, as I mentioned, is currently in our so-called education system, rows and columns of desks with people being trained to take standardized tests, being trained to take these tests. That's not fun. Learning is fun. The tests are supposed to be evaluating the learning, but it's not about evaluating learning, it's tests. The higher the test score, the better the bureaucrats look to their bosses. That's not what I think about education. Is that education? Well, yeah, it is education, but can we do better? We can definitely do better. I went to school and university for 25 years, and most of the learning I did was test-based learning. And I learned a lot that way, but most of what I learned was, I was lucky enough to be in 2 or 3 labs in my high school and university where we were encouraged to support each other rather than compete with each other. So we all taught each other what we knew so that each of us could make our projects as cool as possible. And I made a music synthesizer as my master's thesis as a result of this one lab I was in. And it blew me away that I could actually do a master's thesis on something that I thought was cool, rather than just doing something that some professor thought would get him a publication. But that's what I did. And another friend of mine made an electric vehicle, and that person's name is Martin Eberhard, and he went on to create, all on his own, with a couple of friends of ours, Tesla Motors. No, that asshole did not start Tesla Motors. Martin Eberhard started Tesla Motors. I've known him since we were in this lab together since 1979. That asshole came around way later and took over and fired Martin. Don't believe the hype. So, anyways, hands-on project-based learning makes so much possible. When people are in a supportive community and they explore and find projects they think are way cool, projects they enjoy, projects they find meaningful, you'll find, all of you, if you find projects like that, you'll find that there are things you don't know that you need to know in order to make your projects better and do what you want them to do. That is incredibly good motivation for learning. And there are people in our community and not too far away that we can bring in as resources to improve them. That's the hacker mindset. Hands-on, play-based learning. We learn through play throughout our lives. Teeny little kids or kittens or puppies, we all learn through play. We learn through play differently at different parts in life, but still playing is a fantastic, fun way to learn, and learning is fun and enjoyable. Education, real education, is about learning to learn for a lifetime of learning. That's what happens at Hackerspaces. And because of that, Hackerspaces are fantastic learning environments, and that is why a lot of local governments have actually been supporting Hackerspaces for the last 19 years, helping them because their education systems in these many, many areas in the world are kind of hurting, and these Hackerspaces fill in the void. So when we're at Hackerspaces in these communities, encouraged to find projects we think are meaningful, people often find projects that are meaningful. And again, if a project is meaningful for you, it's probably meaningful for other people. And if a project is meaningful for other people, maybe even a broader community of people finding meaning in your project, now that is the kind of project worth sharing. And if it's worth sharing, maybe that can become a product. And now you have a startup worth starting. Not just some stupid startup. You've probably noticed that there are a lot of startups in the world. You've probably also noticed that most of them are incredibly stupid. They are. They're incredibly stupid because they're not doing things based on projects they find meaningful. They're doing these projects to make money. And there's nothing wrong with making money. We need enough money in order to buy food and pay for shelter and buy the things we want in our lives. There's nothing wrong with making money. But when that's the primary purpose, you are wasting your time, and then some investors are going to come along and manipulate you into doing stuff that you don't even want to do. They'll make use of you so that they can sell stock based on your startup. And when it doesn't work, which is almost always the case, 5 years of your life go down the drain, and they don't care at all. They are only using you. Please don't start another stupid startup. If you're going to do a startup, which is a great thing to do, if you have a project that's personally meaningful for you, it's way worth doing, because you can share that with others who are willing to pay you, and now you have a possibility, even a probability of succeeding and making a living on a project that you love. I'll say more about that in a sec, and these projects can be anything, not just tech and computers, but art and craft, science, biology, all those things, creating physical things, but meaningful for you personally. And when it's meaningful for you, not only your life gets better, but the people you share it with who find your project, now a product, meaningful, it makes their lives better, and this spreads, making the community around you, their lives better. This is a startup worth starting. We can do this. This guy he's one of 3 people who started a 3D printer company out of NYC Resistor. He's one of the people who started NYC Resistor in New York City. And he, with 2 other people, fascinated with 3D printers, called RepRap at the time, created MakerBot, the first 3D printer company for DIY people. And that started this whole movement, and that's why this exists and that exists. And they ended up selling that company for like almost $1 billion, which is crazy. But just by working on projects that they loved. And because of this, you might find that a project you find meaningful, other people find meaningful. You have a startup, you have a product, sharing that with other people. More people might end up wanting it. You need help. You'll hire people from within your community, maybe even people in the broader community. This helps all these people financially who are helping you because you have a project that's meaningful for them too. And this helps create vibrant local economy, which is another reason why local governments have been helping hackerspaces around the world for the last 19 years. So because of helping create vibrant local economy, helping education, as well as personal growth, hackerspaces have grown from about 40 or even less in 2007, here's Noisebridge in 2007, to thousands in the world. Here being yet another fantastic example. But I just want to show you a few photos. I go around the world, like I said, giving workshops. I usually teach soldering or teaching beginners how electronics works. And these workshops for me are all electronic. So I'm going to show you just a few pictures of the hundreds of workshops I've given at hackerspaces around the world. Here's one in Tokyo. And again, hackerspaces aren't just tech and computers, but these pictures are all tech, computer, electronics, because that's the workshops I give. But wherever it is, each hackerspace is unique, but they all have this kind of energy, people supporting each other, engaged in whatever they think will be enjoyable, whether it's in Netherlands or in Belgium or in Brazil, in London, in Croatia, in Israel. There's whatever. The university town I went to now has their own hackerspace. There's a bunch in China. People engaged, people happy, learning and being supportive and supporting one another. When Makers Asylum first started, they were in Mumbai. This is a workshop I gave there right before the pandemic. And again, it's just people engaged and happy with one another. So yeah, here's a map I found last week from hackerspaces.org of all the places in India. Some of these are places that are proposed. I don't know how active any of these are. If you're from anywhere of these places, maybe you want to help these people. If you're not from any of these and you're in those places, you can go and visit. All hackerspaces have open nights at least once a week. If you're not from any of these places and there's not a hackerspace where you live, start one. You can join one if it exists, but if you need a hackerspace, want a hackerspace where you live, you have to start one. Because that is the only way hackerspaces start. It's people like you, each one of you, people like you, start them. That's the only way that they start. People like you make that happen. But you're not alone in doing that. We have hackerspaces.org where people are sharing all of their knowledge that they can write in a wiki to help you. And I am willing to help too. And so are many, many other individuals, including people right here. These are just a couple of good resources on hackerspaces.org. We have the Hackerspace Design Patterns, which is all the things that have worked and not worked so well for hackerspaces back in 2007, which has been added to and added to and added to throughout the last 19 years. You can just search for this and find it. I wrote an article like 10 years ago about how to create Hackerspace, and that's another good resource. You can search for that if you want to. There's a lot of fun things in there for all community, not just Hackerspaces, but it's particularly for Hackerspaces. So yeah, if we get together, we can encourage each other to explore, sharing what we know, learning from others who are sharing with us, learning and growing continually in community. We can do this on our own, but we can do this so much more with supportive community, empowering each other as we go, creating opportunities for all of us and those around us, hopefully spreading and making life better for ideally everyone in the world. So worth a try? Well, that's up to you. So thanks for your time.
Also, we are also maker community for the past three and a half years. So we were also running these kind of hacker conferences and pay workshops kind of stuff and all. So these are all the people, those who are part of this community for a very long time and all. And you